Welcome to Strong Legends, daily sci-fi stories that fuel your mind. Subscribe and join the legend.
Captain Miratan's boots echoed on the polished alloy floor of the Irene's primary airlock as she stepped out, the blast doors behind her sealing with a resonant hum. Before her rose the gargantuan landing platform of the Celestine Empire's flagship Dominion's Pride, a fortress of carnelians and chromatic steel that gleamed like a constellation come to rest. 3 suns hung low in the artificial sky, their pale light refracting through towering crystalline spires that framed the platform's edges. Every surface pulsed with the Empire's signature bioluminescent veins, as though the ship itself were alive. Flanking Mira were Colonel Javier Nakamura, a veteran diplomat with steel-gray hair and steady brown eyes, and Dr. Liuan Rao, cultural xenolinguist and resident expert on interstellar etiquette. Behind them, a squad of naval aides and security officers maintained strict formation, their uniforms crisp, their faces a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "Remember," Mira murmured to the pair, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "We represent all of humanity. Let's not trip over our own ambitions." Javier offered a courteous nod. "Understood." Dr. Rao adjusted her holopad, reviewing the last-minute briefing. The Empire's official greeting protocol involves a triple bow, forehead to knee to floor, then floor to forehead. Any deviation could be seen as either defiance or comedy. Mira stifled a smile. "Let's aim for reverence." A low rumble accompanied the gradual slide of a door set into the far wall of the platform. As it parted, warm gusts of recycled fresh air washed over the humans, carrying a faint hint of ionized musk. 3 imperial dignitaries emerged, grand, Chancellor Zefix, whose robes flowed like molten nebulae, Admiral Kalthar, his 6 eyes glinting with curiosity and something else, something almost amused, and Lady Cerelia, the Empire's archivist, slender and composed, her gaze unreadable, behind a latticework of translucent jewelry. The human ensemble froze. Time itself seemed to hesitate as Chancellor Zefix extended a hand, pale and delicate as starlight. Mira bowed, executing the first of the 3 bows precisely. Javier dropped into the second, then the third. Dr. Rao completed her sequence, with grace. The Imperial trio watched in silence, their expressions inscrutable. Then, snort. It was soft at first, like air escaping a ribboned seal. Mira looked up, startled. Kalthar's rightmost eye twitched. He hiccuped a little crystalline hiccup. Then his other eyes focused on Javier's stiff posture, on the uneven arcs of their bows. A ripple passed between him, Zefix, and Cerelia. A moment later, Cerelia's lips quivered, and a single note of laughter escaped her throat. Mira's jaw went slack. Did we offend them?" she whispered to Liuan. Dr. Rao shook her head, brow furrowing. "No, it's laughter. The Imperial response to unexpected formality, perhaps. They're surprised." The laughter grew in volume and richness. Kalthar bent forward, clutching a crystalline railing as if to steady himself. Zefix's regal composure slipped. He covered his mouth with one hand, shoulders shaking. Even Lady Cerelia dabbed a jewel-encrusted fingertip beneath her eye. A wave of crimson light pulsed along the edges of the platform, Imperial guards readying phasers perhaps, or simply recasting mood lighting. Javier cleared his throat and offered a diplomatic smile. "Esteemed dignitaries, forgive our protocol if it amused." Zefix straightened, his robe flashing silver. He lifted a slender finger. "Ambassadors of Earth," he said, voice rich with deep resonance, "we welcome you with genuine mirth. Your earnest homage, though unexpected, has brought us much joy." Another snort-cum-giggle emerged from Kalthar, and this time it sounded almost musical. He tapped one of his many mandibles. "Your suits, so and square." He waved a claw. "We expected robes or flesh tendrils. Instead, steel and cloth. Intriguing." Humans exchanged baffled glances. Colonel Nakamura coughed. "Our suits are Standard diplomatic attire. Standard, Cerelia repeated, still smiling. Quite functional. She inclines her head, motioning toward a series of hovering platforms designed to carry the humans aboard. Please, join us aboard Dominion's Pride. We shall endeavor to contain our laughter by then. Mira straightened her shoulders. We would be honored. As the humans boarded, Mira allowed herself a quick glance back at the shuttle. Below her, the swirling dust storms of the Zalorian sector seemed distant and small. Before her lay a new universe of possibility, one in which laughter had already done what treaties and negotiations could only aspire to achieve, breaking the ice between two wildly different civilizations. And as the airlock doors sealed behind them, the last thing they heard was another low, appreciative chuckle echoing down the corridor. It was a sound filled with warmth and promise. The reception hall of the Dominion's Pride unfolded before the humans like a living kaleidoscope. Its vaulted ceiling was a shifting tapestry of pale gold and deep azure, as if the very stars had been plucked from the night sky and pressed into crystal panels. Light danced along the walls in fractal patterns, courtesy of the Empire's bioluminescent veins, tracing every curve of the room. At its center stood a long, crystalline table carved from a single, flawless prism of star-forged quartz. Upon it rested a profusion of goblets, each a slender spiral of glass that shimmered with a rainbow of internal impulses. Captain Mira Tan, Colonel Javier Nakamura, and Dr. Liwen Rao approached the dais under the watchful eyes of Imperial aides, their uniforms a curious blend of metallic filaments and flowing fabrics. The humans' stiff, measured strides contrasted sharply with the fluid grace of their hosts, who hovered rather than walked, their movements punctuated by subtle hums of anti-gravity engines embedded in their footwear. Grand Chancellor Zefix rose to greet them. His voice, when it came, was resonant and smooth, imbued with centuries of protocol. Welcome, ambassadors of Earth, to the first convocation of celestial bonds. Each word echoed, like a chime struck in a vast chamber. He swept his arm toward the table. We have prepared for you the imperial toast, a bond of liquid and spirit. Please partake. Javier, ever the diplomat, extended a goblet first. The wine within was a living thing, semi-translucent violet with flickers of silver that pulsed like distant quasars. He lifted the goblet in his right hand, only to find a faint vibration racing up his arm. His eyes flicked to Dr. Rao, who was already carefully examining her own goblet. Are we supposed to drink it now? Javier whispered, voice low enough that only Mira and Liwen could hear. Dr. Rao tapped her holopad. According to the notes, one must trace the rim of the goblet 3 times, bow slightly, then drink in a single motion. Failure to follow the motion sequence can be considered either high praise or extreme offense. Mira inhaled, dipped the rim of her goblet forward, bowed, then drank. The violet liquid slid down her throat with a warm, tingling rush, leaving behind a subtle sweetness and a faint memory of starlight. She glanced around to see every imperial dignitary doing the same, only to erupt in laughter the instant her lips released. It started as a ripple, Admiral Kalthar's deep, throaty chuckle, resonating from the pair of mandibles at the corners of his mouth. Then Grand Chancellor Zefix's regal shoulders began to shake. Lady Cerelia's gemstone-studded finger tapped her lip as she tried to stifle a giggle. Even the silent protocol droids emitted soft beeps of amusement. Mira blinked. I think we just triggered the guffaw protocol. Indeed, Liwen murmured, unable to keep the corners of her own mouth from turning upward. It seems our improvisation of the ritual, particularly drinking in a single motion instead of the prescribed 3 sips, has amused them greatly. The hall's lighting shifted again, bathing the table in warm crimson. At the far end, a pair of Imperial guards exchanged glances, their armor creaking as the laughter bubbled over. One guard's ocular implant flickered with static as he tried and failed to maintain a stern expression. A moment later, both guards were wiping tears from their cheeks. Javier cleared his throat and smiled diplomatically. Esteemed dignitaries, we appreciate this enthusiastic reception. On Earth, we have similar traditions, though perhaps less explosive. Kalthar raised a clawed hand. Earth customs are fascinating. You imbibe cosmic spirits in a single gust, yet expect no consequence. We envy your boldness. His mandibles quivered. A spectacle fit for legend. Zephix stepped forward, extending an arm to guide the humans deeper into the hall. Come, we shall continue our conversation where the air is less charged, though perhaps not less entertaining. They followed him through a pair of revolving crystal doors into a domed antechamber, where floating cushions orbited a central fountain of liquid mercury. As the group settled, Imperial aides offered trays of luminescent fruits and compressed cloud cakes. Javier delicately sampled a cloud cake, which dissipated on his tongue with a whisper of citrus. Dr. Rao's eyes lit up. She reached for a fruit that glowed like a tiny sun, slicing it open to reveal succulent syrupy segments. Tell us, Zephix intoned, sipping another goblet with genteel gusto. What inspired humanity to journey this far, across such perilous voids, to seek us out? Mira took this chance to adopt the calm, measured tone that had won her many negotiations on the Council of Earth. We come in pursuit of understanding and cooperation. Our world, though young among the stars, believes in forging bonds that transcend distance. We hope to learn from the Celestine Empire's wisdom and share what little we have to offer. Chancellor Zephix's many eyes softened. Then let laughter be our first lesson. He gestured to an Imperial aide, who approached and pressed, a slender console hidden beneath the fountain's rim. Instantly the mercury stilled, rising into tendrils that formed a holographic map of the Zalorian sector. Celestial bodies, wormhole connections, and trade routes shimmered in shifting polychrome. This, Zephix declared, is our dominion. We shall show you the highways of the heavens, and in turn, you will teach us your Earth customs of mirth and camaraderie. Before a word could be spoken, that low, appreciative cough of laughter rippled through the chamber again, a soft, collective sound that spoke not of mockery but of genuine delight. Humans and Imperials alike exchanged amused glances, the invisible wall of protocol dissolving beneath the joy of shared amusement. As the holographic sector turned, Mira leaned toward Javier and whispered, "I think we just signed the unspoken clause of this alliance." Javier grinned. Clause of cosmic comedy. Approved. And so, amidst silver laughter and violet wine, two civilizations embarked together on a journey where humor proved as powerful a binding agent as any treaty or oath. The next morning, the humans were escorted to the Empire's famed education wing, a vast amphitheater suspended in 0G above the ship's core. Rows of floating dais formed concentric rings around a central holoprojector, and on each cushion hovered a meticulously crafted etiquette manual, a crystalline tablet etched with shifting symbols and interactive diagrams. Above, tendrils of soft purple light pulsed to the rhythm of the ship's life pulse, lending an otherworldly calm to the chamber. An Imperial etiquette master glided forward, her robes trailing like liquid nebula. "Ambassadors," she intoned, voice lilting, "today you will master the ceremony of bonds, the triple bow, the threefold exchange of titles, and the recitation of the Imperial Ode." She tapped the holoprojector, and the dais flickered to life with holographic avatars demonstrating every gesture in meticulous slow motion, fingertips brushing floor plates, kneecaps bending at precisely 27 degrees, chests inclined. At 35, Mira took a deep breath and stood on her floating platform as the avatar bowed. She mirrored the motion once, twice, and on the third, drifted upward instead of down, her ponytail floating over her head like a halo. Beside her, Colonel Nakamura over-rotated, his back arching so dramatically he nearly tumbled off his dais. Dr. Rao, meanwhile, studied her tablet in silence, executing perfect bows on her third attempt, but with her eyes still glued to the Myo hologram, she ended up facing the wrong direction entirely. Gravity, or lack thereof, is a formidable trickster. Javier muttered, righting himself. He offered Mira a grin that was half apology, half encouragement. She laughed, and with that sound the tension eased. The master's lips curved in an almost imperial smile. Laughter is an acceptable, transitional state, she conceded. You may proceed. After 2 hours of wobbling, flapping, and occasional collisions between dais, the humans had at least mastered the triple bow to a functional degree. Next came the threefold exchange of titles: Earth Delegate, Celestial Confidant, Interstellar Ally, each title pronounced in sequence, each bowed between utterances. Javier stumbled over Interstellar Ally, mangling it into Interstellar Ali, which drew a gracious but audible chuckle from the assembled students. Finally came the Ode of Bonds, the heart of imperial civility. Dr. Rao translated the original archaic Celestine verse into English. Under cosmic gaze, 2 worlds we raise through word and will, our spirit still. Practice began. Mira inhaled before each stanza, projecting her voice across the chamber. She stumbled on gaze, turning it into gazes, which threw off the meter. Javier attempted a deep, measured baritone, only to find his voice cracking on the faux high note at still. Dr. Rao, ever scholarly, recited flawlessly in hushed precision, but without the requisite warmth. It sounded more like a lecture than a vow. As the session closed, the master approached them, eyes bright. You have shown perseverance and, most importantly, a willingness to learn. Tonight we shall dine. There you will recite your translation of the ode before the Chancellor himself. Do not fear imperfection. Sincerity outweighs perfection in the Empire. That evening the humans assembled in the domed banquet nexus, a cavernous hall hung with floating orbs of soft opal light. The table curved in a crescent, seating dozens of high-ranking dignitaries. A hush fell as the servants distributed crystalline quills and ink pots of starlight silver. A hush fell again as Mira rose, quill poised. Honored Chancellor, she began, voice steady. Esteemed Council. Her hand trembled as she dipped the quill and signed the treaty, then straightened to recite the ode. She spoke. Under cosmic gaze, 2 worlds we raise. Through word and will, our spirits still. A polite pause, then another. The hall remained deathly silent, until Admiral Kalthar's mandibles clicked in amusement. A single jewel-bright teardrop appeared at Zephix's eye corner. Then, unexpectedly, a ripple of laughter spread. Low, affectionate, and undeniably warm, Colonel Nakamura followed, offering his version. Beneath starry eye we lift us high, with trust and hope, our bonds renew. He altered gaze to eye and raise to lift, but stumbled on renew, pronouncing it renewed. The dignitaries giggled, some discreetly, others unabashedly. Lady Cerelia glanced at him fondly, then rose to her feet and offered an impeccable recitation in Celestine, flawless in voice and accent. The room fell silent once more. Zephix stood, raising a slender hand. Your efforts, both earnest and earnest in error, touch us deeply, he said, voice resonant. In your stumbles we see your humanity. In your laughter you offer us unity. Please sit. As humans and Imperials broke bread together, orbital fruit salads, quark spice synth roasts, and ambrosial crystal pastries, a new understanding took root. Here, amidst laughter and humility, etiquette became more than ritual. It became empathy. Each misstep forged a bridge. Each chuckle wove another thread in the tapestry of their emerging alliance. When dawn's pale lavender light filtered through the Dominion's Pride's hull, the humans were roused by gentle tugs at their sleeves. Imperial aides, dressed in robes woven from living fiber, guided them to the ship's grand atrium, transformed today into the festival of shared follies. Banners of spun starlight fluttered overhead, and the scent of candied nebula drifted on the air like soft smoke. 0G charades. The first event was a game of zero-gravity charades. Floating bubbles of translucent field glass drifted between participants. To win, you had to slip inside a bubble, pantomime a concept, and have your teammates guess. Mira found herself enclosed in one, attempting to convey Earth breakfast by exaggeratedly pouring imaginary cereal and slurping loudly. Her teammates guessed everything from galactic plumbing to dinosaur ballet before Javier shouted, "Cereal." The bubble winked shut, awarding them applause. Across the hall, Celestine youths tumbled through bubbles like silver fish. Their laughter, light and bell-like, echoed in weightless arcs. Humans realized that losing was just as delightful. When Lywin accidentally mimed quantum diplomacy as interpretive dance, the crowd roared, and she took a theatrical bow that spun her 3 times before gently landing on a floating cushion. Gravity-bending rides next came the anti-gravity roller, a looping track of refractive crystal rails suspended in midair. Riders strapped into inertial dampers, then whooshed through loops that painted streaks of purpling light. Colonel Nakamura, ever the stoic, emerged with perfect hair and a grin so wide it surprised even him. Mirrored on his face were the reflections of shimmering kites drifting above, glowing silk constructs that children from 20 worlds sailed as part of the festivities. The Cosmic Comedy Stage. At the heart of the atrium stood the Cosmic Comedy Stage, a circular platform ringed with sentient sensitive seats that adjusted padding and climate to each guest's comfort. Here, species from the far reaches of known space told jokes in turn. A 3-armed Martian juggled crystal orbs while delivering puns in 3 languages. A sentient nebula took form as a mime, performing an absurdist routine about trying to find its own edges. Laughter rose and fell like tidal waves, universal, irrepressible. When it was humanity's turn, the Imperial Master of Ceremonies beckoned Mira and her team forward. They were handed garish costumes, tunics of vibrantly mismatched color, helmets sprouting holographic daisies, and boots that squished like rubber. Their skit, the legendary Day Earth Almost Ate the Moon, an ancient human myth. The Day Earth almost ate the moon. Under spotlights, Javier lumbered in as Earth, draped in a blue and green tunic, while Mira wore a pale, crater-dappled robe as the moon. Lywin, in a star-spangled cloak, narrated, "Behold, the day when Earth, in cosmic gluttony, reached forth with hunger unmatched." Javier pretended to mouth a gargantuan bite. Mira squealed in mock terror. Oversized foam chunks of moon rock flew through the air, accompanied by boingy sound effects. The audience howled as Javier flailed, choking on cottony moon dust, while Dr. Rao attempted a solemn rescue, only to trip over her own holographic flower helmet. The resulting pratfall sent her spinning into a floating fountain, eliciting uproarious laughter. When the scene ended, the trio took their bow to thunderous applause and a standing ovation. Imperials and humans united in delighted uproar. A shared orbit of laughter. As the festival drew to a close, constellations of lanterns, each shaped like a different world, were released into the atrium's zero-G field. Humans and Imperials alike chased after them, laughing as they floated, reached and collided in gentle orbits. Mira caught a lantern shaped like Earth. Zephyx intercepted one shaped like Celestia Prime. They exchanged lanterns, their smiles soft but triumphant. Floating side by side, humans and aliens watched as the glowing maps of their homeworlds drifted together in silent homage. In that cosmic aquarium of light and laughter, the barriers of protocol, fear, and difference shimmered away, revealing the simple truth that bound them all: joy. And as the final lantern settled against the domed ceiling, Mira knew that this festival of shared follies would be remembered as the moment when 2 civilizations truly saw each other, not as us and them, but as kindred laughter sharers under the same endless sky. The Hall of Accord glimmered in dawn's pale violet light as the humans stepped through the arched entrance. Gigantic prisms of crystal lined the walls, each etched with the names of civilizations that had joined the Celestine Empire in centuries past. Yet today's gathering felt different, charged not by conquest or power, but by the echoes of shared mirth. Grand Chancellor Zephyx stood at the dais, robes cascading like liquid starlight. To his left, Admiral Kalthar's many eyes sparkled with anticipation. To his right, Lady Sorelia clutched her crystalline tome, as if its pages trembled in excitement. Before them lay the Treaty of Zalorian Peace, a holographic scroll dancing with motes of light, hovering above a floating table. Captain, Miritan exchanged a glance with Colonel Javier Nakamura. Neither needed words. After 4 days of spilled wine, wobbly bows, and moon-eating pratfalls, they understood that this moment was the culmination of every giggle, every stumble, every shared joke. Dr. Liwen Rao stepped forward with the ceremonial quill, crafted from the feather of a sky whale, and dipped it into an inkpot of liquid moonstone. She offered it to Mira, who hesitated only a heartbeat before tracing her name across the treaty's shimmering surface. Her signature glowed briefly before settling into the luminous text. By the authority of Earth's Unified Council, Mira announced, voice steady, we pledge our friendship, our cooperation, and our laughter. A soft murmur rippled through the assembled dignitaries. Javier followed, bending with all the dignity he could muster as he inscribed his name. By the honor of the Terran people, he vowed, we join the Celestine Empire in mutual respect and understanding. Zephix approached the scroll, lifting the quill with slender fingers. As he signed, his voice echoed, in the name of the Celestine Empire, we embrace this alliance, one not forged in steel or blood, but in joy. The moment the final flourish landed on the scroll, the Hall of Accord erupted in a single resonant laugh. It was a sound that filled every crystal chamber, a wave of warmth that seemed to lift gravity itself. Humans and Imperials alike joined in, rich, varied laughter that harmonized across species. Even the silent tapestry suspended overhead shimmered, its patterns briefly blooming into fractal flowers. Chancellor Zephix raised a slender glass of violet wine. To our shared future, he toasted, voice trembling with mirth. May our mistakes be many and our laughter many more. Mira met his gaze and raised her goblet. To friendship across the stars and the mistakes that bind us. She clinked her glass against his, and for a heartbeat, the universe held its breath. Then, as the first droplets of wine met the crystal rim, a collective chuckle burst forth. The glasses rang in perfect unison, a crystalline ping that echoed long after the hall fell silent again. Outside, the Irene's engines hummed softly, ready to depart. But humans lingered in the corridor just long enough to hear one last chuckle, drifting through the corridors of Dominion's pride. A warm reminder that even in the cold expanse of space, laughter lights the way. And so, bound by treaty and by humor, two civilizations embarked on a new chapter, one written not in ink, alone, but in the shared delight of cosmic folly and the promise of laughter yet to come.